Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Anne's Wellness Reset. So, after using Fitbit for a number of years, I recently decided to try something different, the Hume health tracking system. And honestly, I really wanted to love it because many aspects of Hume generally impressed me. But a couple things left me incredibly frustrated, especially when the system gave me an F for activity, which made absolutely no sense because I was doing strength training, HIIT, cycling, basically staying very active. So today, I want to show you exactly how Hume works, what I genuinely like about it, what I think needs improvement, and whether I think it's actually worth considering, especially for those of us over 50. First of all, an important distinction. Hume actually is two devices working together. There's the Hume Band, which you wear all the time, and it's very similar to a fitness tracker. And then there's the Hume Pod, which is where things get really interesting. It's a body composition measurement system. So let me show you how this works. You step onto the scale, hold the wand up horizontally. You stay still for 30 seconds to 45 seconds, and it measures your body composition. That includes things like body fat percentage in various body parts, muscle mass percentage, visceral fat, subcutaneous fat, water, bone metrics, and more. And honestly, this is the part I found genuinely impressive. If you're over 50, I think this kind of information can actually be incredibly helpful because the number on the scale really doesn't tell the whole story. For example, if you're strength training and eating more protein, your weight might actually stay exactly the same, but your body composition may be improving significantly. You could be gaining muscle and losing fat, improving metabolic health. And none of that would necessarily show up on a traditional scale. That's why I actually love the idea of tracking change over time. For example, as you can see here, over a period of 6 weeks, I gained 1.62 pounds of muscle mass and lost 2.76 pounds of fat. That is so motivating, particularly given the higher risk of muscle loss post-menopause. It also shows body fat and lean mass percentage. Now, this is where Hume gets even more interesting. It creates an overall health report based on several areas, including cardiovascular health, activity, sleep, chronic illness risk. And I have to say, the chronic illness risk section really caught my attention. It provides risk estimates related to things like cardiovascular disease, sleep apnea, diabetes, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, osteoporosis, sarcopenia, inflammation, and a number of others. Now, obviously, it's not diagnosing anything, but I do think that this kind of information can be really useful, especially as a conversation starter with your physician. Because if you combine this type of report with blood work, for example, and family history, blood pressure, and other medical information, it can help identify things really worth looking into more closely. And I actually think that's very interesting feature. Now, here's where things really fell apart for me. The activity tracking. Unlike Fitbit, Hume doesn't automatically recognize activities, and the list of activities you can manually enter is surprisingly limited to steps, weight training, and running. That became a real issue for me. Because I didn't manually enter an activity, it basically didn't count anything I was doing, which means the health score didn't reflect what I was actually doing. And this is where I became really frustrated because I was doing weight training, HIIT on my elliptical, cycling for like 2.5 hours every week. And despite that, I got an F for activity. So it just didn't make any sense. So if you're someone who forgets to manually log exercise, or you do activities the system doesn't recognize well, your data may not be very accurate. And it also got me thinking, imagine if these health trackers could eventually connect with actual blood work, things like glucose, cholesterol, inflammation markers, even hormones and vitamin levels. For women over 50 especially, that would be incredibly useful because then you'd be connecting your daily habits with what's actually happening inside your body. And those illness risk factors would be based on much more data. That would be a game changer. Other area where I think Fitbit still does a better job is sleep. Hume tracks time in bed, but it doesn't provide the kind of sleep detail I've come to appreciate from Fitbit. Recently, I have felt somewhat fatigued, and I find it very useful to know, for example, my REM sleep, my deep sleep, my sleep quality trends, because things like stress, alcohol, late meals, or exercise timing, hormones, such as a lack of estrogen, can all affect sleep quality. And I like being able to actually see that reflected in my data. So in that area, I think Fitbit still has the advantage. Let me give you an example. Yesterday, I met with my family physician. I told him about my fatigue and sleep patterns based on my Fitbit data. And as a result, we are getting a full hormone blood test done to see if my low estrogen or any other hormones have been impacting my cortisol levels, resulting in a lot of sleep disruption. So stay tuned for an update on that. So what's my honest takeaway? I actually think Hume and Fitbit do different jobs. Fitbit helps me understand my daily habits, movement, exercise, sleep, heart rate trends, and Hume helps me look at the bigger body composition picture, health risks, and that part is really valuable at this stage of my life, especially for women over 50 who care about preserving muscle, reducing visceral fat, understanding health risks, and seeing meaningful change over time. But if Hume improved automatic activity tracking and offered more meaningful sleep analysis, this system would be dramatically stronger. And I think Hume offers tremendous potential to add more tracking capabilities, such as blood work markers. Right now, I really like the body composition and health reporting features, but I was definitely frustrated by some limitations. I think I'm going to continue with both health trackers, Fitbit Sense 2 and the Hume Band and Pod. But I'm encouraged to replace my Fitbit with a real watch once in a while, especially when I'm going out for dinner. So please like this video and join me on the next one by subscribing.